Upgrade your account using the My DSTV app. Sport,
It's amazing!
and of course, for the kids, bring on fun.
Let's go.
And get more than your money's worth with our incredible offers. Visit dstv.com to get connected.
You want to be in it?
With so much incredible holiday entertainment for the whole family, there's only one thing to do. Bring on the break
Oh, good.
with DSTV.
Ukubhalisela lukhetho sekuqalile. Ngakho-ke, faka isandla ekwakheni uhulumende wakho ngekuthi ubhalise. Bhalisela lukhetho esiteshini sekubhalisa lesiseduze nawe. Kubhalisa kutawugcina amatili 14 inhlaba kulosetulu. 14 June 2023. Ungasali, zakha live letfu.
Kwaphinza kwaba imvokodo umbukele ukuthi ngakuthulela luhlelo lakho Libhola Eswatini. Luhlelo lolu lungena njalo ngabolesine. Likanzi kulohlelo lo nje mbukele sikulethela tindzaba tayo ibhola libhola letinyawo phela mbukeli kulokwentekile ngempela somvo nalokwentekile emkhatsini weliviki nalokutawendeka kuyo phela impela somvo kanzi libito lami ngilinda ngimaster wakadlamini ngibambele na ke yena Fabrice Msonera solo nje lijala sekhaya lise holidayini lisaphumlile lisangcebelekile kodwa mina nawe mbukeli ngithoba nje lokukhulu ngakulethela sitawuhlala nawe leli hour lelitaba khona ngikucathatele ukuthi ngabe kwendekani vele etindzabeni tebhola kungabi nje ibhola lapha ekhaya kuphela kodwa ke ngidawuqala a very special guest all the way from America ngidakucathatela ukuthi ngabe utengani vele lapha ekhaya ngidabe sesingagijima ngiyayilanza ke yona labe kune press conference khona eSgwaca House kusendlungulu yelibhola letinyawo lapha ekhaya lapho khona mengameli wayo inhlangano emidlalo lebhola lapha ekhaya Peter Samura Simelane bekabite betindzaba phela kutothi nje asebakhulumisane ngoba thine betindzaba siyindlebe siliso lakho mbukeli lapho ekhaya basibitile ke ukuthi asike sitoti butela ukuthi ngabe vele kuchubeka kanjani khona lapha endlungulu yebhola bekakhona ke naye lokungabhalani lomkhulu kuyo lenhlangano lo CEO Frederick wakamngomezulu naye asita yena mengameli kuphendvula nje limbuto licembu le-West Ham itolo lincobe i-UEFA Conference League first time i-West Ham incoba European competition first time i-trophy yakhe yena David Moyes as a coach ku career leseyibeyinze kangaka siyamkhumbula ku Everton siyamkhumbula ku Manchester United siyamkhumbula futhi aya ku Spain kodwa ke akaza kuthola lokhu lakwenile itolo against Fiorentina yakhona eTaliana kodwa ke mbukele angakumoshela isikhathi ngiyathi ukuthi unethetekile lapho la uhleti khona ngenteka kubuhleti kusofa wakho uhleti lapha e-sitting room noma uhleti labanye bayibathanze kubukela mabona kudze base ekamerweni labo ngiyabona noma uphethe icingo lakho ubukela ka YouTube noma ke ku Eswatini TV app uyayibukela lihlelo lakho luhlelo leli libhola eSwatini njengoba ngishilo kodwa ke angamoshi isikhathi ngibana lo mhle ngutshelile ukuthi tonight I have a very special guest all the way from America. His name is Rob Fisher. Rob, when I tell Maswati that there is a guest all the way from America, it raises their hopes that, oh man, finally, there can be that one player who can play maybe at the MLS. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
The last player to represent Eswatini at the MLS, Mfana Foot Taribo Pembe. I think over 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
Since then, it's drought. It's a drought.
Yeah.
Please raise the hopes of Eswatini. Why are you in Eswatini?
So I'm here because I've started a football scouting nonprofit called Fisher Talent Group. You can check us out at www.fishertalent.com. You can follow our socials. Most of them are at Fisher Talent or Fisher Talent Group. And so we are establishing a youth talent database. So we're a football scouting nonprofit, and we are starting in Eswatini. We don't, we're not a player agency. We don't broker deals. We don't sell discoveries or anything like that. We are strictly discovering youth players aged 10 to 18 and trying to centralize all of the talent, not just in Eswatini, but across Africa. And hopefully, right now I am the only staff member, and I'm trying to establish a scouting network as well. And hopefully in time with donations, we can fund a full-time scouting network and then videographer and a regional manager. And what that will allow us to do is tap into youth players in rural communities, which is what we're passionate about.
Okay, Rob, I know that you are very, very passionate about a database when it comes to football, but can you briefly tell us about your background and how long you've been in Eswatini?
Yeah, so I've been here for about a month, but I actually started in Eswatini I lived here between 2010 to 13.
Oh, okay.
So I was in...
So the FIFA World Cup in 2010,
Yep.
the fever of the 2010 World Cup, you were here.
Yes, I was here, but so I was in a volunteer organization called Peace Corps.
Oh, okay.
Which is an American volunteer organization. And I want to say we flew into Johannesburg first, and we spent the night in Johannesburg. And so we were not, for like the first month, we went through a training when we weren't allowed to watch the World Cup, which was kind of a downer. But I think, if I remember correctly, I think we did see the final. But yeah, so I was in Peace Corps between 2010 to 13. And I lived in a rural community called Mvimbili, which is near...
Mvimbili.
Mvimbili, yeah.
Okay.
And
in the northern
Yeah. Some people might know the community Infongeni.
Infongeni,
yeah, right around that same area on the way to Matsamo, the Matsamo border. And so I lived with a Swazi family there, and I coached a high school called Mswati High School. And I coached that team between 2010 to 12. And we actually went to a national semifinal in 2010. We repeated as conference champions 2 years in a row. So I did that between 2010 to 12, and then I actually extended and stayed for a third year. But yeah.
Rob, I know that's you in the middle. I want to believe that's you in the middle.
That's me.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So you were the coach of the school...
Mswati High School, yeah.
Mswati High School.
Mswati High School, yeah.
And you reached the semifinals.
The national semifinals.
So you're a good coach, Rob.
I think the players were really good. But yeah, the man on the left was actually my babe, and I lived with him and his family.
Yeah, the man on the left.
The man on the left, yes, is Stimbiso. And then Sibusiso, the individual in the red, was my assistant coach. But yeah.
So I see the players are wearing medals for...
I believe this is for the Pigs Peak bracket.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is actually at one of my favorite fields in the country, which I'm not sure what the ground is called, but it's in Pigs Peak. It's kind of like a bowl, and the crowd is like above the... Do you know what I'm talking about?
Okay, the branch tournament.
Yeah, but I'm saying the field, this particular pitch.
This pitch.
I remember where this is, and it's one of my favorite fields in the country. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe Kilani Stadium.
No, yeah, this was in Pigs Peak.
Yeah, Kilani is in Pigs Peak.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was called, but yeah.
Okay. So it's in your CV. Yeah. So it's in your CV that you won something with King Mswati High School.
Yes, yeah. We won 2 conference championships.
Okay.
Yeah, we won the Ho-Ho region the first year, went back to the Ho-Ho region regional final the second year and lost. But yeah, went to the national semifinal in the first year.
Rob, I know many team directors, Premier League team directors are watching. If there can be one team who can say, Rob, can you please come and help us? Can you please be our coach? Are you available?
Oh, no, because I'm running Fisher Talent Group, so I need to focus on scouting, and scouting is what I'm passionate about.
Even if the offer can be something...
No, because right now we're about discovering youth players and trying to push things forward from that perspective. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I think what makes a good scout is if you can coach. So my background is in coaching. I took 3 coaching courses here, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, my background is in coaching, which I think is a positive thing for scouting.
Everyone who comes to Eswatini, they always say the people are friendly, the environment, the weather, everything. How did you find Eswatini? The first time you came here.
The first time I came, I mean, I've loved it from the first time. Yeah, and I think my family, when I lived in Mvimbili, I think that's what solidified my love for the country for sure. My family welcomed me with open arms. I live with probably at least 10 people. My brothers and sisters were, my little brother Msizi, if he's watching, Msizi. I think he was 3 years old at the time.
Okay.
And so now he's 13. And actually, and I went back to Mvimbili probably 2 weeks ago, and I saw my mage and. I didn't see anyone else from the family, but I saw some.
Oh, so you know some few Siswati words.
A little bit,
like
yeah.
Sawubona,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'm not. I can't speak in a conversational way, but yeah, for sure.
It's not that fluent, but you understand some few words.
Yeah, I would have to pick it back. I can understand.
Like Kashela.
A little, yeah, Gangani.
Yeah. Awesome. When I say other African countries, the likes of Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Egypt, powerhouse, if you are talking about football, why Eswatini?
So I came here to start Fisher Talent Group because I'm familiar with the country. I have contacts here. I've reconnected with many of my former players. And I know the country. I know how to tap into rural communities, into the rural areas. And so, yeah, that's why we're building out here. And hopefully we can establish a scouting presence in every African country. That's my goal for the future. A lot of people look at me and think that, that's kind of impossible because of how many countries are on the continent. But I don't see why we can't have the world's most significant database of overlooked African youth talent.
When you compare Eswatini to the other countries, maybe even America, what's so unique about Eswatini, the players?
So for me, and some people think I romanticize kind of this idea, but the 2 best youth players that I've ever seen were on those Mswati high school teams.
Is it?
Yeah, for sure. And some people think, so this picture, I think, is the second year when we repeated as Pig's Peak champions. Okay. But yeah, the two best youth players that I've ever seen were on those teams, and that's including kids that I saw in America and kids that I played with growing up. And so, if you're looking at the talent in Eswatini compared to West Africa or anywhere in Africa, I think, to me, I think that talent, you might not get the volume of talent in any particular country if you're comparing country to country, but I think you can find, top talent in any country. If my theory is, if you were to take the world and look at the countries, everything is just a dividing line. So if you remove the lines, it's like we're all just one world, and people, Fisher Talent Group has started because I want people to believe in talent that you don't look at.
Countries like Germany, I think their players are unique. Most of the players technically they are good. Brazilian players technically they are good. Eswatini players technically or tactically, which part can you say Eswatini players are good in?
So I think it depends on the player anywhere. I think in Germany, I think you grow up in a youth system that's different. I think in Spain, you grow up in a youth system that's different. I think in America, you grow up in a youth system that's different. For me, when I'm talking about the 2 best youth players that I've ever seen and them being on Mswati High School, one of them was a holding midfielder.
Okay.
And this kid played with more creativity than any youth holding midfielder that I've ever seen. So if you were to take him, I would feel comfortable taking him and placing him in Spain or placing him in Germany. So I just think it's based on the player. It depends on the youth structure you're growing up in, the style of play. But I find, I find Swazi youth to be creative and resourceful and in all thirds of the field.
Let's get to the juicy stuff. You're talking about keeping data for all the players in Eswatini, not professional players, but amateur players. It's not something we're familiar with in Eswatini. How do you do it, and where do you start in keeping your data?
So I have the talent database is actually on our website, but I password protect that, and I connect those players to a list of global football contacts. So I update them with track. So when we discover players, we continue to track them. So we go back and see them. We give them second assessments, third assessments. If we discover a player who's third.
So you sorry to cut you. You follow a player.
Yep.
From as young as 10 years.
I mean, if we discover if right now it's just me scouting, but in time I want a scouting network. So when I go scouting every day, I try to scout 6 days a week, 7 days a week. If I go scouting, I don't set out necessarily to find a 10-year-old or to find a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old. You just ought to find. I mean, one kid that I discovered recently is 13. So because he's so young, I will just continue tracking him over time. I'll go see him play in a game. I'll go back and see him play in another training session. And I'll just keep writing reports and trying to build film around him and profiles and promoting his talent.
So there are over 100,000 of young players all over Eswatini. Where do you start? I know Mvembili, Nvonjeni is so close to your heart. Where do you start?
So to me, I live in Eswatini, so I've started scouting around there and trying to tap into the community, to the rural communities in Eswatini, Baban, Manzini, and all of these places just that are kind of like in my backyard, so to speak. But I've gone back to Mvembili, I've scouted there. I've got some contacts further out that are maybe 2 hours away. But all of these things, there's a methodology to scouting and to tapping into rural communities. But for right now, because it's just me scouting, it's, I have to kind of plan accordingly, the long distance trips that I take. But we will, over time, I've only been here for 1 month. So I'm kind of trying to get my bearings around Manzini, Baban, Eswatini, seeing the rural communities I can tap into there, try to establish the database there, and then kind of try to branch out from there. So that's kind of my methodology.
Yeah. After collecting that data, what do you do after then?
So, I mean, the first thing that we do, it's very simple. We're a very straightforward scouting initiative. So as soon as I have the first assessment of a player, I go to a training session, I go to a game, I will go back and make notes on that player. I'll get contact information, from the coach. I'll try to get a couple individuals that are maybe around the community or that are connected to the individual, so that I can establish communication and not lose track of the guy. And then I'll go back and make notes, and I'll put him. I'll do what I call an initial screening, which is the first assessment that I had, my first thoughts on him, and then I'll just I'll input that into. That won't necessarily go immediately into the database. It'll go into a file, and then I'll go back and see the player again, and I'll just continue tracking the player, and I'll build reports around the player through film and written reports, and then that is what I'll end up putting in the database.
Nice.
Yeah.
But before I let you go, Rob, I know there's someone from Lavomesa and Hlangano, Big Bend. How do they get a hold of you?
So the biggest thing that we can do is, number one, if you're talking about getting a hold of me individually, so you can find, if you go to our website, www.fishertalent.com, or even any of our social medias, the link will take you to our website. So my WhatsApp and my local number are both listed on there.
Okay.
And I'm very open to any communication from coaches or anyone in the local football community. And that's, people ask me, how do I tap into the rural areas? How do I tap into certain fields and whatnot? And it's just through communication, making friends here, connecting with individuals here and there, and you just, it just gradually builds over time. So anyone who wants to get in contact with me, it's just the best way to do it is through the website. And again, that's www.fishertalent.com. And the social media will take you right there. Okay. And we need more followers on social media.
Yeah.
So that helps get the word out and push the initiative forward. So
there's one thing I can guarantee you, Rob. By tomorrow morning, there'll be a traffic in your social media accounts because people are watching. they are
Okay.
following this show. So
That would be fantastic.
That one I can guarantee you.
Yeah, and the thing about the social media is that it's the way, for Fisher Talent Group, it's as much about discovering players as it is turning the world onto places. I want to open up talent territories and encourage others to come and scout certain places.
Okay.
So yeah, the more individuals we have following us on social media, the more we can get the word out. So that's always why that's a benefit.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Yeah,
And
likewise.
Good luck. Good luck. We hope it's going to be successful because we don't have anything like data collecting in Eswatini.
Yeah.
There's no one who's collecting data, more especially for our youngsters. I don't want to talk about a Premier League level or First Division level, but for a youngster, I think we are doing something good.
Oh, for sure, and I hope we're able to do it. I'm extremely, a very optimistic person, so I think we will. But yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Rob Fisher ke loyo ukhuluma tindzaba tekukoleka yona idatha ukuthi ufuna ukukoleka idatha yabadlali labasebancane kusuka nje eminyakeni lengu-10 kuya kule-18 nakakoleka leli datha ke uthi lolonke live lase-Africa wathi ama-football agent lamaningi kakhulu sithemba ukuthi nyalo sekutawukhona ukuthi badlali bethu balandzeleleke basesebancane kodwa ke ngakamtedelena Rob Fisher njengoba ngishilo ukuthi ngamsombuluko nakusuka nje lona liviki lelisetulu indlungulo yebhola noma ke buholi bayo inhlangano lengamela umdlalo webhola lapha eVeni Eswatini Football Association ibiteke betindzaba ukuthi asebake batohlala nje phasi babatebhola kodwa ke lo mhlangano loyo akukabi ngumhlangano wekugcina njengoba umengameli wayo lenhlangano Peter Samuras Melane avetile ukuthi kusekutaba kunengi ukuthi bahlale nebetindzaba ingani betindzaba ngibo labaxhumanisa sive nalabaxhumanisa nayo inhlangano lengamela umdlalo webhola ngoba betindzaba bayindlebe baphindze baliso baphindze bangumlomo njengoba siyakulethela tonke lokwentekako emidlalweni webhola bekakhona ke namengameli Peter Samuras Melane anaye ke long communications kuyo le inhlangano Eswatini Football Association Muzo Karatebe naye ke emabhalano lomkhulu wayo lenhlangano lokungu Frederick wakamgomezulu baphendvula nje betindzaba ngidakushiya naye ke yona leyo press conference yayo iEswatini Football tasina kuphela ke lokho itabe sesiyangena ke highlights ngidakupha ama-highlights egame ye-West Ham lapho khona bidlala ne-Fiorentina licembu lase-Italy i-West Ham yasengilandi bebadlala i-UEFA Conference League lapho khona i-West Ham igcine incobile ngamagoli 2-1 lokwenta ukuthi yena David Moyes abe ngumceceshi wokuqala wase-Britain ukuthi angawina i-European competition since Alex Ferguson kwanele umhle thokotela nako lengidakushiya nako sithe sidibane ngalokutako ngiyethemba ukuthi tonke tinhlelo te-Eswatini TV utatithokotela mina ngilinda kwadla mina lonke lithimba letemidlalo lapha eSwatini TV siphuma kanje.
UEFA isebenzisa i-constitution. So when we deal with my issues ebhola, we are using i-constitution. The constitution leyo lesinayo thine ithathelwa from i-constitution yaka FIFA. So what FIFA is doing, we are supposed to follow it. And then within lama operations ebhola, kune ma policies. Lama policies ngiwo lasiguidako in terms of dealing with administration issues. Ngoba constitution is fine, which is the strategic direction of the organization. Currently, njoba sishito nje ukuthi EFA developer strategy for the next 4 years. And the strategy for the next 4 years, ngiyacabanga ukuthi we are on the verge of finalizing it. Timali ke lesisebenzisako tsine la ebholeni tibuya ka FIFA. And FIFA usiniketa timali and they are regulated le timali through FIFA Forward and the contract of agreed objectives. kusho ukuthi tonke letimali lesisebenzisako taka FIFA ti-guided kulawo ma-document lawo lokuthi letimali uma tifika nitisebenzisa njani batawusho nje ukuthi for women football development nayo imali efathi isebenze khona, for i-grassroot development nayo imali efathi isebenze khona, for operations nayo imali efathi isebenze. So letimali ti-guided, so tsine asikavumelekile ukuthi sithathe letimali sitisebentise langakafanele khona ukuthi sitisebentise. So ke na inqubo ke kusebenta kwaletimali. And then ekupheleni kweminyaka sesibe ne-AGM, i-annual shareholders meeting. Kule annual shareholders meeting sibita onke lama football stakeholders, lama associations lala khona la kangwane lalang 8 members ala kubo 48 lokuthi sibanikete ema-reports ke afaka ema-activity report for that particular year kuthi sente lokhu nalokhu. Then over and above lokho sibanikete ema-financial report, ema-financial statement. So kulama financial statement konke kuyafakwa lokuthi timali tisebenze njani. And kulama financial statement aya-auditwa. Kune-internal auditing, i-auditor tonke timali taka Football Association. And bathi bangati auditor bese kuphume ema-reports. Over and above lokho FIFA uletha i-auditor yakhe to audit letimali taka FIFA lokuthi tibonakala ukuthi tisebenze kona yini. Batafe ba-check ukuthi letimali lesifakako singu-FIFA tisebenze according to lo mgomo wethu. And if letimali tingakasebenzi according to lo mgomo wabo, ukhanza ukuthi FIFA butasuba nenkinga, ukhanza ukuthi letimali akasasiniketi in future. Kanzi currently so far FIFA usathola lokuthi cha letimali sisati-channela sitimikise la kufanele ukuthi sitiye khona. Kuba nema-capital projects njoba nati nje sitawukhuluma ngawo, then ke bese kuba ke nema-development project laba khona in dealing with letimali. Over and above lokho nanathi singu-FA siyesizame lokuthola lamanye ama-sponsors nema-partners. And ngale ndlela lesisebenza ngato njengoba sengishito nje ukuthi FIFA uyatibuka letimali takhe nanyalo FIFA utaba khona atibuke ati-audite so that kubete lenango tsine nje one of the countries lokhanza ukuthi FIFA letimali uyasinika because letimali sitisebenzisa accordingly. And kulatinye amanye ama-countries ukhanza ukuthi letimali atiseti kahle because ukhanza ukuthi akusasebenteki kahle. Kulama capital project kwi-infrastructure njoba nati nje lokuthi FIFA usitile etintweni letinengi. For example uma ubuka lo sigwaqa lesikuwo ngumsebenzi wa FIFA nale ke commercial wing lelengale lala granta khona abantu, so lo ngumsebenzi wa FIFA. Nema technical centers yakalobamba Nhlangano nakalanga nyalo sicedzela Mkhuzweni. Tonke leto lawo ma project lawo ngwa FIFA. The next one kutaba i-project yakamanzini nayo letawucala very soon. FIFA uma a-developa le infrastructure, we developela lokuthi to develop football in the country. Ngalokuthi sitele titedium sigcine sesidlalisa ema-match lamakhulu like bo Premier League games. But imbambambamba lama technical centers akasi aloko okudevelopa ibhola, but ke bese ke siyawasebenzisa lokuthi salawe PLE lokuthi ana asebenzise le stadium. And bese kuba nema observations or tikhalo from imedia ukuthi hey kalanga bantu bahlala kabuhlungu kanjani sibhola although vele letete amazanga sitakhele lokuthi titawhosta ima-matches but sesifuna ukuthi even if ahostwa njengoba sivuma ahostwe in a friendly environment sitakubuka naloko sibone ukuthi singu-FIFA how can we singu-UEFA how can we deal with it so that ekugcineni kutholakala ukuthi nalabantu labatobukela ibhola bahlala kahle lama project lengifuna ukuklarify ukuthi lama infrastructure project a FIFA and according to lengishito ukuthi bo FIFA forward nabo contract of agreed agreement so FIFA uba involved from the day iqala le process njengoba sitaka kamanzini FIFA nje taba khona kusukela ekuqaleni even nakuma tendering processes until kutholakale le construction company na FIFA utawubuta la ato approve everything so thina singefa we don't do it in isolation sikwenta sinanangu sina FIFA and ngalo silethi mali tibuya kuye ngu-FIFA loba ne last word kuloko ukuthi okay le company ningayichasha ukuthi wente lo msebenzi and itawenta according to ma standard a FIFA then ke ku football development programs nibonile ke lokuthi sake sabanjelelwa iCovid yathi kuma isibambelela ema project besina